Okay, hi everyone. So the today's stream is going to be I'm going to make this. I'm going to follow this tutorial to the best of my ability and make the game and talk about it. So there's a lot of tutorials out there. There's not so much um sort of talking about the art of making tutorials or how to make them good or whatever. Um, it's more just you put a tutorial out there and then people either like it or don't. And one of the problems with tutorials is that you get like the comments are maybe not helpful because um, people will compliment it if they like it, and they'll just leave if they don't. So, and then obviously the channel creator can just delete whatever they want. So, the only real way to review a tutorial is to sort of go off platform and make something else somewhere else. And so for this video, I'm going to be reviewing this tutorial, which it looks promising so far. So let's get into it, right? So right off the bat, if you play Doom, you probably recognize these sound effects. That's cool. I'm not sure about the visual style. I don't think it doesn't feel doomy, and I'm not sure what it's going for, but it's it's economical with resources. Like I'm sure these are very easy to make, and they look pretty good. So just sort of confidence building for a beginner. That's a good start. And I can't tell if this is a gray skybox or if we're in a room. Either way, it's a little weird there, and I think that if I was making Doom, I would want more like there's changes in elevation all over the place. That's one of its core selling points. But for like a 30-minute video, this looks pretty realistic. I believe that this can be made in 30 minutes by a non-expert. And I've already done like a little bit of the tutorial. It goes quick, which I like. Not everyone likes that. I like that. And so I'm going to do what Physis does. So scroll on out, shift click to pan, and then middle mouse button to move the view. 3D scene. Sorry, no, he hasn't done the 3D scene yet. Here we go. Okay, so we can do all that. 3D, name it world. And you'll notice mine's gray and Mrs. is blue. That should help you keep them tell them apart. I don't know how to change the look of the editor, and it looks fine, so I haven't bothered to learn. Um, this one was called environment. Yep, there we go. Interesting. So a mesh instance doesn't do anything. Wait, did I say? Okay, name it. Yeah, yeah. So a mesh instance doesn't have any collision by itself. You need to do like a static body or rigid body or whatever. So if you put a character on that, it'll just fall right through. This is not an approach I've seen before. We'll see how it works out. Um, but that stands out to me immediately as a little weird. So let's just, well, I'll do what the tutorial says. So environment, and then for the environment, yep. Add child node mesh instance, and then mesh plane, and then here we go, material, new material, albedo, and this is a complicated menu. So if you've never messed with this before, you will get lost, and that's normal. So click here, click here. If you don't see material, it's under orientation. Click here, new standard material, and then albedo is sort of the color before any shading happens. So let's make that a nice. That's a fine color. Right. And so if I had something that cast a shadow on that, the color would be different, but the albedo would not, because the albedo is just the base color before you do anything else to it. Okay, so that's that. Do we resize it or anything? Okay, so I don't know why the wait, what? I don't know why it's like this. I'm just gonna let it run until it starts making sense again. So these are not all like a lot of these keyword shortcuts are ones that I haven't seen before, so that's cool. I like learning that, but this is not how I've seen other people do it, and I'm not sure why that is. Mostly my problem. So the try mesh thing looks fine. Those are good. Those blocks will be collidable, but the mesh instance still doesn't have any collision. So things are just going to pass right through it if I understand it correctly. And the mesh instance I'm talking about is this floor here. Okay, I haven't seen groups before. I don't know what those do. That sounds useful. Okay, so I guess it's a first-person game, so you don't actually need to be able to see your player. This looks fine. This looks normal. Um, I haven't messed with breakcasts too much personally, so I'm curious to see how you work with them. That seems useful. I'm still not sure what the deal with the non-collidable floor is. Oh wait, is he just? Oh, okay. We're just gonna disable gravity, aren't we? Is that it? Okay, so this I'm gonna follow along with closely because I haven't done that much UI yet. Okay, this is okay. I probably just have to watch the whole thing and then like go back and actually do it. This is really interesting. I watched another tutorial that was a first-person shooter that actually modeled the gun and then put it in there. Um, so this is kind of an unrealistic expectation. So it's kind of on me for all of this complaining. Like this is not really necessarily what tutorial makers are supposed to be doing. But I personally really like when the tutorial shows you not only how to make the like do it in the editor for Godot, but also shows you how to make the assets. And so I can take a good guess as to how these were made. I What you'd probably do is you just model it in Blender and then sort of get the lighting the way you want it and sort of take a picture and then that would be your thing. That's my guess is how this was made. I don't know that you draw it like that because it would be easier to draw it in a different style. But I'd like to see more tutorials say, "Hey, here's how to make the stuff," rather than just import these assets. So I'm dedicated to following this tutorial as intended. Let's go ahead and get these assets. Oops, what did I do? But generally, I like it. I like to make my own assets because I think that you'll learn just a lot more, a lot faster if you have to do things yourself. So yeah, so one of the things I'm disagreeing with here is that I like it. So I'm comparing this to another. I'll just pull it up. Um, yeah, so I'm comparing it to this game, and well, I guess it shows off the finished product immediately because that's what you're supposed to do with these things. So so this is a very similar end product. The back third of this is basically just like networking and stuff because this is supposed to be online. Um, and you can see here that all of these are actually modeled, and this gun is a 3D object that you like it's this whole thing is just modeling the pistol, and then there's like animation, like how to animate the pistol as well. Just think over. Yeah, here we go. So you're creating and animating the pistol in the tutorial, which I quite like. And then all of the enemies are just well, there's no enemies because it's all in multiplayer. All of the other players are just sort of capsule shapes that are dyed different colors, and then this health bar. It, I think that using sprites is more faithful to Doom because that's what it would have done. Um, but I think that for a more modern workflow, working with 3D models is more friendly because if you want to change them, it's very easy. Whereas with sprites, well, first of all, you don't get access to the process how the sprite was made, right? So if you want to change it and you don't know how, tough. Right? But even even aside from that, learning how to make 3D models is incredibly useful for just kind of all like everything, right? Like if you want to work in 3D, which this is even like Mrs. says it says it's sort of 2D, and I sort of agree. So because basically you're not really interacting. So Godot's yeah. So we're gonna no Godot is Y. So we're gonna do it in Godot terms, right? So here's your y-axis, and Mrs. says, okay, in Doom you go forward and you go forward, back, right, left, and that's it. Right? You don't really interact with the y-axis, and therefore we're not going to bother even having collision on the floor. And Let me just pull up that video again. And in this tutorial, not only do they make sure the floor has collision, they like show you how to model, a pretty. I mean, it's pretty simple, all things considered, but it's non-trivial, and it's a very like helpful walkthrough as to just the basic workflow of doing this sort of thing in Godot or doing this sort of thing in Blender. And Blender is really helpful for making these sort of somewhat complex environments. And I learned a lot from. I think I learned a lot just from these two like sort of very basic Blender tutorials, because a lot of tutorials don't show you what it feels like to work with the software at the speed a professional might use. And this person is like, okay, well, here's like I'm just going to do it. All right, I'm just going to do it at roughly full speed, and if you can't follow along, then I expect you to pause. And that's a philosophy I really like, and it seems like both of these tutorials are really following that philosophy. Which I But yeah, so let's keep going with this. I think that I'm less impressed by this tutorial than this other tutorial right here. But I said I was going to follow this tutorial, so we'll do it. And because I'm probably just going to watch this whole video, comment through it, and then sort of once I'm done commenting, actually do the tutorial. And I think that's usually how you should approach tutorials like this. Okay, so that rule of thumb is also useful. That's not something I really was paying attention to. It's good. Yeah, so this is another issue with baking your sprites. I actually have Doom right here, so we can just check this out. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. You can see that there's a lot more than 3 frames of animation here, right? So I think it's one. So it's like a right, boom, 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 boom. Right? I think it's closer to 8. I think need indirect. Okay. How do I get out of here? I think it's over here. That looks right. Yeah. So you can see that this is lit up. So that's that. Okay. Whatever. I am not familiar with this specific emulator, so I don't know exactly how this is working. But yeah, you can see much higher resolution and quality sort of shots. And then we don't have any enemies in here, but we do have barrels. You can test against barrels. It's not. Yeah, there we go. So that barrel again, I don't know how many frames there's going to be in the animation, but yeah. So it's a slow animation, all things considered, but it's it's got quality to it. Let's see, over in this tunnel, we got this dead marine perspective here. I don't know which place. That's fine. But yeah, so we can compare that to we can compare that to these animations, and you can see that there are all four of the individual frames look nice, but it's sort of choppy. Whereas this tutorial, we've got air pistol animations right here. Okay, well let's just go over here to the preview. Right. So because this is made of 3D models rather than individual frames, um, we can see that that basically the animation has as many frames as you feel like. So you can see here. During the shot. I'm advancing frame by frame, which you do by period and comma, I believe, on most. Right. Yeah, there we go. So we can we can count the number of frames here. Right, and so the effective number of frames is as many as your computer can render, just because of how this works. Um, and I think that the 2D version feels snappier for sure, but this one feels more. It's not so choppy that it's distracting, whereas this one, you know, yeah. So it's almost suspended animation. So it's like boom, boom. So shoot, and then it's this pose for a little bit, and then this pose. It's very choppy. And that evokes the doominess, but it's lower quality than Doom, and it doesn't tell you how this was even constructed. So if you wanted to take this tutorial and do something else with it, you have trouble because you don't have the ability to make this asset. Okay, so playing it that fast, the choppiness goes away somewhat. I think that I would probably want to have twice as many frames if I was going to go the sprite route, especially since the tutorial isn't. You know, I don't know how these are made. I think they're made in 3D, and so you can just render twice as many frames pretty trivially. So I would like to see more frames, but playing it faster helps. Okay, that's just the crosshair. Okay, that's a reasonable approach to doing that. Okay, that'll probably here we go. That'll probably look a little small until I don't know if this is gonna it's gonna expand it or whatever, but that looks a little small right now. Okay, that is a little small. I would cover the whole screen with that. But you know, I can see the reason not to, because it can be very frustrating in games like this to not see how you died, and so what you could do is just like sort of if the player's dead, freeze frame, and then sort of put put the death, like put the play again thing on top, and that's very reasonable. We'll see if that happens. I've never seen this screen before. That is very. I was looking for that in a. I was looking for that in a different project. That is good to know. I think that I was so. I don't agree with a lot of the decisions this tutorial has made so far, but this is a fantastic tour of all of the little bits and bobs that Godot gives you access to. They're just a little hard to find if you're not looking for them. So even though I think that if you're trying to make a shooter, this is a better tutorial. I'll just give you a second to find that. I think this is a better guide to the Godot workflow. So they both have strong value. I think that if I was trying to make a first person shooter, I would definitely want to watch both of them. And don't let the timestamps fool you. I would say that to get a video. Sorry. I looked over here and said recording 0, and I was like, did I forget to press record? No, I am streaming, so I've been streaming for half an hour. So this video that I'm currently watching, very good at showing you all the bits and bobs in Godot. The other video kind of glossed over everything it didn't directly need. But I think that between the two of them, you have a very strong sort of base to work from. So this is a really valuable tutorial in my eyes, and I was expecting to disagree with more of it than I do. And I think that I'm thinking this other tutorial that I won't go find right now because it's for Python, it's for Pygame, but that really jumped around, and it was like explaining it was like explaining trigonometry, but it was also assuming you understood trigonometry. It was just like a review, and this is very much a. I don't think I agree. This is a Doom clone per se, because it's missing enough features that I think make Doom Doom. It's sort of the first thing you'd make, and then you'd make other stuff, and then you have Doom clone. And it's not like a part one or whatever. So what you see is what you get. Whereas the other game is like it doesn't do as much, but it promises it. All the things it promises it'll do, it does. And this is like you're gonna make Doom, and when I think make Doom, I think like E1 M1. You have the whole level. It's got textures, it's got animations, it's got changes in the elevation. That the whole all of this. This reads more like Wolfenstein, and Wolfenstein is fantastic as a entry point because you don't have to worry about the. Okay, so different engines care about different things. In Godot, it's Y. You don't have to care about the Y-axis because everything is a flat plane that's just projected to look 3D. Whereas Doom is basically 3D with a couple exceptions, and then Quake is like actually fully 3D. So I think that I would disagree that this is a Doom clone just because it doesn't fully utilize the Y-axis, because you do like walk up and down slopes and stuff in Doom, and that's one of the things that in 1993 would have blown people's minds, because before Doom came out, the computers that ran on the IBMs and IBM compatible PCs were thought of as just sort of overgrown calculators. And so this, like when Doom came out, that was basically like this sort of banking calculator that you run spreadsheets on. It's showing you like shooting demons in the face, right? It's it's like I like there isn't even really an equivalent in the modern day because everything can play games, and we've all accepted that. I think most of you have seen, oh, I got Doom running my printer or whatever. But this is like if you go to class and they hand out the TI-83s, the sort of the graphing calculators, and someone's playing Fortnite on one of them. It's like, and I think that this person has missed a trick here by not showing off a lot of the features that made Doom stand out from its contemporaries in terms of technical prowess. and also that arguably give Doom its character. So, like, if we look at Doom again, the first thing you notice is the architecture is weird. Like, this is a very oddly shaped room, and you have this texture over here. This is a real life picture of a mountain, by the way. Um, the architecture is weird, and you can go, you can go all around. You can go up and down. You can look out the window, and this is completely totally boring in today's day and age. But a lot of games that were 3D looked very boxy, so it was almost like the whole world was constructed out of identical cardboard boxes. Whereas this is like, it's still boxy in that like it looks like something you could maybe fold out of paper or something like that. But in terms like compared to other games of the time, it was just incredible, right? And you can see here that you've got this cool animated texture to make it feel like it's spinning. Um, just all of these little touches, and then like the texturing has been like they put sort of the drip spots where you might expect them, and there's these lamps that they don't do anything, they're just there, but they're nice. I think they might do something with lighting, I'm not sure. Um, like all of these little touches that make Doom, and you can also see here these steps. Your They're not steps, right? They're actually just um, sort of diagonal, and then like if I walk up the steps here, you'll see that I sort of clip through the step itself, right? Or actually, I guess they are sort of stair-steppy, but they don't. It feels more like a ramp, even though it is more like stairs. I don't know exactly how that's done, but there's a lot of like just little insignificant details that added up to make Doom like just kind of the coolest game around when it first came out. And oh yeah, okay, so this door's open now. I don't know why it wasn't open earlier, right? Yeah. It's just I don't know, I think all of this still holds up pretty well, but just imagine being there when it first came out. There's nothing, there just wasn't anything else like this at all. And for a lot of people who, obviously there are people in the scene who are like, okay, we've seen 3D games before, but a lot of people who weren't in the PC gaming scene had never seen any game like this at all, especially not at home. Like, arcades could sort of do this. Um, and I think that by ignoring the 3D-ness of Doom, we're erasing some of its legacy and making it feel as though it was just sort of a game rather than it being the reason that we're all here today. If Doom had not come out, I wouldn't be on YouTube. You wouldn't be watching this video. The first person shooter genre would probably still exist, but it wouldn't be as big as it was. And if you look up Doom, like Doom, like Doom engine lineage, right? Where's the dang? Yeah, here we go. So like, these are all just Dooms. I'm looking for source engine. Here's the dang map. No. Okay, they like Godot here, huh? Source engine. Okay, here we go. So these are all okay. So yeah, here we go. So Doom, Doom was part of the thing that made Quake possible. Like Quake was developed after Doom, and you can see all of these Quakes. Um, like at the ends here, you've got a bunch of games you probably haven't heard of. But then you go to Quake World, and that goes to Gold Source. So that's all all Valve software comes from here, right? So Gold Source is all from here. And then Apex Legends, right? You've probably heard of that. Apex Legends uses the Source engine, so it's running on the same basic DNA as Quake did, which is the thing that was based on Doom. Um, Team Fortress 2, if you've played that. Over here, we've got, I don't even know what some of the stuff is. Doom Eternal is based on the Quake 3 engine, which is based on the Quake 2 engine. And then a lot of these are games you probably haven't heard of, but they were cool games. People played them. Wolfenstein, Black Ops 4 is running on, you know, and before Quake there's Doom. So if you put sort of Doom up here, and the Quake source and the Doom source don't overlap that much, but the same people worked on them, and everything was learned from it. Uh, and so we need like when you're talking about Doom, you need to understand that Doom is the reason we have a lot of important games. Like a lot of important games. If you've been playing video games for a long time, you've almost certainly played something that was based on the Source engine, like Team Fortress 2, Counter Strike, Dota 2, all the big, Valve games, Apex Legends, and Titanfall 2. Um, and then obviously, even if it wasn't based on the engine directly, um, basically the entire industry, especially for first-person shooters, was directly influenced by it. So yeah, I don't know. It makes me a little upset to see. This is a tangent and a tangent, but it makes me a little upset to see that we're not respecting what Doom brought to the table when it was first released. Okay. Yep. So this is all pretty pretty standard. I think we'll see the gravity get removed soon here. Okay, so this is boring. I'm just gonna skip through this. We were okay. Uh, okay, physics layers. I have not played with that. We'll see how this goes. Okay. Yeah. So part of what we just got rid of was the ability to fall, because character body 3D, it doesn't do anything unless code tells it to. So rigid bodies have physics built in, and so if you have a physics object, it'll fall, it'll do whatever. Character bodies don't have that. character body, if you don't tell it to fall, it just stays where it is. And so you can't fall and you can't jump with the code that's just been removed. This is okay. So dragging from here to there just gives you the unready. That's cool. I think that might be a newer feature. I don't know if I have that in my Godot. I haven't updated since 4, basically. But that's cool. Okay, so in an area, the thing you'd probably use for an area is that Doom is essentially get to the end, and you can do stuff between getting to the end if you like. You can kill the enemies, find all the secrets, whatever. So an area 3D would be you put that where you wanted the end to be, and then if they enter the end, well, I won't show it off right now, but Doom has an end screen that'll show you, how far you were in the map, how long you took, what your secret count, what your kill count was. So that's what you'd use an area for. And if you probably wouldn't want to hit areas even if you had them in the game. But it obviously depends on your game. So yeah, it looks like this is just a shooting gallery basically. You can move up to, forward, back, left, right. You can shoot. You can look around, and that's basically all you can do in this game. Which again, for a beginner, fantastic. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about the Doom labeling. Yeah, so I like lower sensitivity. Um, and I'd probably put that in the options menu because other people like to. I play Counter Strike. I'm picky about it. My mouse sensitivity is usually about half of that. Um, although this person might be doing something a little bit different than I've seen other places with it. Okay, this is something I don't actually understand. There's input and there's unhandled input, and I think they're different. I don't know why. I've seen unhandled input used for mouse events though, so that's probably what that is. Oh, control click. Okay, I was wondering about that. So that's good. Like the this review is getting a gold star for showing you how to use the dang engine. get treed up with. Yep. Yeah. So that's what I don't know if this will be explained exactly here. So because we're capturing the mouse input, um, you can see moving my mouse around here, right? But the way that first-person shooters generally work is the mouse is in the center of the screen and the screen moves, right? So that means that I can't move my mouse over here to click on this X because instead that's just going to make my character look, or well, the mouse. So it's basically just going to make my screen like look toward that rather than. So what you have to do is get out of the program. So like get out of the little screen it gives you and click X, which is very annoying. And so if you have the escape button, you can just hit escape. The game will end, and you can keep working. And even for games that don't grab your mouse input, I really like to put that in. It's just very convenient. I have muscle memory for it at this point, so if I want to change something, I just hit escape. And um, I think that's this is super helpful, and I don't know if this will be explained in detail. Okay, so this is not being explained clearly, but basically, especially since it's an interpreted language, I'm not going to get into what that is, but because it's an interpreted language, it's doing a line by line. So, well, okay, so both interpreted and non-interpreted languages are going to be doing line by line, but interpreted languages um, basically ignore future commands because they don't. Okay, this explanation. Okay, let's just start over. So to get to this line of code, right? To get here, you have to have passed this line of code, and the if sort of hijacks the thread, and it like until this has been resolved, nothing else can happen. So what this is saying is every frame or so the physics is updated as I said 60 times a second. So every time, first we check if we're dead, and if we're dead, we just sort of end the function and wait until next frame, and then we'll check next frame if we're dead. So basically, as long as you're dead, none of this code does anything, and that's seems like a reasonable way to do that. Do that, and then like return. So you can return values. That's a very common way to. So like you'll call a method and have it do some math, and then the math will get sent to the method that called it. So you might want to return 6, right? So if you want to have a die roll that returns between 1 and 6, it returns a number, and that number is used somewhere. In this case, we're returning nothing, and that just so the method that called this doesn't get anything, which is fine because we don't need anything. What this is doing essentially is saying either like as soon as you get the chance, if we're dead, as soon as you get the chance, stop, right? Don't do anything. Otherwise, check all this stuff and then move all this stuff around so you can move. Um, and then the same thing for shooting, right? So in this case, you want to be able to exit, you want to be able to restart, and so we're checking these things first, and then if we're dead, and then if we're not dead, we can do this stuff as well. Otherwise, we go back here, and then that's going to be called every frame. So we're always going to be able to do these two things, and then if we're not dead, we're going to be able to do this thing. Okay, let's get through this. And a thing that's pretty easy to do. So it moves toward 0 at speed. So if you're going 60 miles an hour and your speed is 20, it'll move towards speed. You know, you'll lose 20 per increment, right? So it'll take 3 increments to go to 0. But if you change it to 2, then it'll take 30 increments to go to 0. Um, and so if you want to have your speed different from how fast you slow down, you can just have two different variables. So, if I wanted to have fairly low friction, I could have my speed be 5 and my this where this is called from speed, I can have that be 2. And so if I if every other frame I press forward to go forward, then I'm going to speed up net, right? Because I'm getting 3 units of speed per pair of, on off on off. Whereas if you want to have if you want to have the friction higher than the speed, so if I go forward, then I can. Well, you wouldn't actually want that because if that just means that if you press forward, um, nothing happens, or that like you. I'm getting away from myself, but yeah. So that's something that I feel like I should point out. That this number can be different than this number, and there's often reasons to do that. And also, all caps things are usually constants, which means they're not supposed to change. But you could always also change this, right? So you could say, okay, your speed is double because you got some item. You can change this, right? So you can change the speed and then not change the friction. You can change the friction, not change the speed. Or you can even change the speed in one direction, so you can have x speed and y speed. Um, this is a very basic function that's meant to be messed with, and if you understand it, and this is a pretty good explanation in the video. If you understand it better, you can mess with it better. You're not supposed to use this in any sort of finished game, even for a game jam, because it's just sort of basic and it's a one size fits all, which means it doesn't fit anything, and you're going to need to change it. But I like that it comes with it because it means you can test immediately, which is good. Okay, so this is another thing that's different from Doom. Let me get my Doom up. Okay, let me this. Right, so we can see here that this thing takes more than one shot. Right, I believe this thing also, yeah. But you can see I definitely hit this because it's making, yeah. And so, I mean, the very easy fix for this is just change that method to has method damage and then apply some damage. Um, and then you can have different guns with different damage amounts. So this works. It's great for a beginner, but I think that understanding the extent, like how to extend this, would be very useful as well. I feel like I'm almost advising the tutorial to be twice as long, just with all these additions. And I don't know if that's. I think that I do prefer a snappier tutorial that doesn't go on as many tangents, which is ironic because I'm going on a lot of tangents. Um, but it's very much a do things this way and you'll get this result, and not a here's the process for making something like this. So if, for example, I was a newbie game developer and I'd gotten this from the tutorial, um, I would not necessarily be able to figure out how to. Let's say I wanted to have something with 2 hit points, so you have to shoot it twice before it dies. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be able to like figure out the process to modifying that. And because this kill method is like baked in, um, pretty like sort of it's pretty core to how this all works. Um, you'd have to replace that, and then everything else would stop working, and you'd lose a lot of time before you got anything out of it. Okay, I think that um, explaining briefly how signals work could have helped here, because they're depending on where you're coming from, you may or may not understand them. Basically, the Godot uses the observer pattern. Let's see, which is what? Yeah. So the observer pattern. So what? So if well, this is Unity, but Godot uses the same thing. So let's say I want to have an achievement where if I jump 200 feet, that I get an achievement. So basically, you have a thing that checks how far you've fallen, and if you've fallen 200 feet, it sends an achievement, right? Or it sends a signal, and then something else picks that up, says, "Oh, you've fallen 200 feet," and you can make that achievement. Which means that the achievement thing and the falling thing don't have to be directly connected. You can just have it broadcast out, and maybe it broadcasts out to something it cares, and maybe it doesn't. So it's like a radio, right? So um, you might have a radio station. Uh, you might have a radio station that's broadcasting out to 100 people. It might be broadcasting out to 0 people, but it broadcasts regardless. And then if you think of these as listeners, which I think that's basically what this is doing here. Um, Listeners, right? You like I might have some sort of secret code or whatever, right? So let's say the secret code is Apple. And if this observer hears Apple, they're like, "Oh, it's go time. I have to go to the bank and deposit $100." Why? Don't worry about it, right? And then this observer might not care, and this observer might not care, or this observer might say, "Okay, well, I've just heard that signal Apple, and so I know that this thing is going to go deposit $100. So I'm going to wait 30 seconds, and then I'm going to withdraw $100." And so you can have this sort of implicit link, and that's a bad way to do it. Like you'd probably want to have them more directly connected because the inputs of this thing and the outputs of this thing are connected. But that core concept is pretty important. And if you don't understand it, signals don't quite it's like this is sending out this, and you need to understand that when something sends a signal, that signal may or may not have something that's trying to receive it. It's not like an email where you send it to exactly one location or a number of locations, and each of those receive it, and then are expected to do something about it. I guess email a lot of you don't respond to, but or it's not like a phone call, right? So if I call someone, I expect them to pick up and do something about it, right? So if I call a pizza place, I expect the pizza place to answer. Whereas a radio station, I broadcast to whoever is listening, and I don't expect them to really interact with me directly. So that's the observer pattern in a nutshell. I'm sure there's better explanations out there, but what this is doing is when the animation is finished, that signal is broadcast out, basically to anyone who's listening, if you like maybe imagine a hallway, right? So there's a hallway with a bunch of speakers in it, and there's people listening in the hallway. So a speaker will say animation finished, and there's someone in the hallway who cares, and they'll go somewhere else and talk, do something about it. Okay, so I I personally like to test more frequently. I like to add less code and then test more between. But yeah. So this all looks fine. I don't think I have any serious objections either to the tutorial or to the things it's telling me to do. Ugh, okay. So all of the same objections to the sprite for the gun apply here. Oh, yeah, just looked at it all. But we've already talked about that. Okay, so the billboard thing is important. That's basically how Doom works as well. So we just go back to Doom. Uh, what's the open for me? Yeah. So if you see here, I can't actually. Oh, well, I don't. Okay. What? But yeah, you can see here that this dead marine, it's always going to face me, right? I can't see its back because it's a billboard. So it's doing the same thing here. It's always gonna look at me, and that's because it's using the same. The tutorial is doing the same thing here, right? So this sprite doesn't have a back because it's always going to face the player. It's always gonna look right at me. So if I walk over here, I should see his back if I turn around, but I don't. because it's just and you know it's very obvious also to see from certain angles. You can see it's like if I move one way, it moves the other way to keep the relative angle the same. And so that's the exact same here. So, so I don't know that I'll have time to follow. You know, I may or may not finish this tutorial in terms of like making it. Um, I'll definitely like what I think about like making like I should make this whole tutorial. I'll try and do that this stream, if not next stream. Um, this looks this looks like a good way to start learning the engine, but the way that this is being done is really outdated and really inflexible. So it's much easier to change a 3D animation than a 2D animation, and these are all 2D animations. And it's it's also once if something is dead, it's still tracking collisions because of how that this can be disabled, but it's still essentially working as an alive enemy, but it's dead now. Which, if you have a level where you have 50 enemies and half of them are dead, can be inefficient because you mostly care about the living enemies. There's a lot of little things that I would change. Um, yeah, but yeah, I think that between this as sort of a guide to the engine itself, and this video, which I'll link below, for the VOD, this video as a here's how to do all the things you need to do, and then also it even has multiplayer setup. Between these two, I think that you have a fantastic start to making Godot, and that this is about half an hour, this is about 45 minutes. Multiply those by 5 or 6 because you're gonna have to pause and look things up and all that, and it's 45 plus 30 times 5, 60. Yeah, so that's about 6 hours, um, which is pretty reasonable. Like that's less than a complete workday between those tutorials. That's pretty reasonable to learn an engine as advanced as Godot, and how to do all the basic stuff in it. And if you can understand the basic concepts presented in both of these videos, you'll be able to do pretty much whatever you want in 3D. And like this video, basically by itself, taught me like half of what I know about Godot. So, you know, I love this. I love the tutorial. This one's okay. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to recommend it. But between these two, you can do whatever you want. And I think that it's underexplained why it's using sprites rather than just 3D models, which would be easier. But I think it is interesting, and I think it's it's kind of a good nod to the original Doom, because the original Doom, right, basically it was pictures of models. So they made it out of clay and then they rotated it at a set numbers of degrees, and each each rotation they took a picture, and that's how you had rotations of that. I don't know if I'm explaining this well. So this picture is one sprite, and then you rotate it a little bit and take another picture, and that's another sprite, and then you can tween between them to make it feel like it's rotating. And it's the same basic principle here. And for historical reasons, that's cool. I think it should have been explained why we're using sprites. This, other than having Doom in the title, it feels like this video doesn't really notice even that it's related to Doom. But I like that they're using sprites if they're going to be Doom because of that. Even if even if they're not doing it the way that a modern dev would. And there are reasons to use sprites. It's really efficient compared to 3D models for some things, and some people just like the style of the old Doom. You can't really replicate this effect with 3D models. Like you just model the whole body, and then you'd have a back to it. So if you want to make this effect, you kind of do have to use sprites. But I think most people don't want to make boomer shooters. I think most people want to make, you know, shooters that are sort of up to modern ideas of game design. And so this weird rotating effect is a hindrance rather than a boon for most developers. Okay, let's get back into it. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with this for a beginner tutorial, but this does mean that the like they will walk into pillars. If you're, you know, if you're here, right? If you're here and there's a pillar in the way, then they'll just walk into the pillar, right? And so there's no like pathing around it. Now, pathing is a little complicated. Like professional developers mess it up all the time. It's hard, and I don't expect that to be covered in a beginner tutorial because it's hard. But I think I would want to acknowledge what the limitations of that are, because you might have people who are a little bit upset. And then I think there's probably going to be a way to make it so that there's probably going to be someone who does this tutorial such that, and does it wrong slightly, so that you have the pillar here, player here, right, and enemy here, and it can shoot through the pillar to it'll shoot through the pillar to hit the player, and the player won't be able to even see what shot them because of this whole setup. I think the enemies probably just do contact damage in this game, so they have to actually be up close and personal to hit you. But in the original Doom, they could shoot back, right? We've already gone over that. Okay, so that I pointed that earlier. Disabling collision is good because it means that um, basically it's just a sprite that'll display, and then if you run over it, it doesn't do anything. And you could change the collision shape to something else and make it smaller so you trip over it rather than. But I don't know. That's a good solution for the scope of this video. Okay, this is also useful. Um, so we haven't explained what a raycast is. Raycast is basically it's essentially like a laser pointer. Um, so with a laser pointer, you can shoot a line out into space, and you can measure how far it's gone. And this is useful for not just shooting guns, but all sorts of things. So I have another project that I haven't figured out how to do it yet, but I'm using a raycast to determine if something is on the ground. So if the raycast moves 0 units, then it's on the ground, right? And so if it's off the ground and it shoots the raycast and that raycast goes a distance, then that means that we're in the air. Or raycasts are used in all sorts of if you have a race car, you have a race car here and you have a track here, you can raycast to see which side, like if you're close to the edge of the track or not, and sort of for an AI you'd want to stay mostly in the middle so you can raycast and like not crash into things. They're very useful. Okay, yeah. So that covered my sort of preemptive critique. That means that if you if you hit a pillar before you hit the player, then you can't attack the player. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. I also would have liked to see an attack animation. This is a little underwhelming. Like, but yeah. Okay, so I'm also notice here that the crosshairs are really invisible. What you probably want to do is have a texture, so just like a sort of plus, basically a texture there, and then it'll be more. Okay, so this has a lot of the same. So obviously this is Quake, not Doom, but this has a lot of the same limitations. Okay, well, it has to get 3D animations. It it looks fine. It does what it needs to do, but it's a little. This very much looks like an early prototype. The animations are nice for the guns, though. Okay, so this is midway review because I haven't actually done the thing. Um, so positives. No, I don't want to say it's as advertised because this is not Doom, right? We've gone over many things that it does that Doom doesn't, or many things that Doom does that this tutorial doesn't. And but if you look at the first 30 seconds of the video, it's exactly as advertised, and that's good. I think that um, the reliance on doing a lot of code all at once and then testing later. I don't like that workflow, but it is what it is. I think everything was adequately explained. I've been adding and going on tangents whenever, but I was just if I didn't know what I was doing and I was just watching this video, I would have questions, but I wouldn't have any questions that like kept me up at night. These are all reasonable things to sort into it. Um, anyway, let's actually make the thing. So how far did I actually get? Okay, so Doom clone mission. Okay, so the first thing I would change is I would not make this a mesh instant 3D, right? And I'm just gonna change this. Yeah, child node. Um, set button, right? Set by 3D. Make that a plane. And I don't need a physical material. Add child node. Mesh instance. There we go. And now we'll just make that a plane. Cool. Now click here. Uh, click here. Click here. Albedo. Let's make it a nice brown color. So now, aesthetic body 3D. Wait, you need a collision shape. Collision shape. And let's make that a plane 2. Gosh, there's no plane. Okay, just do a box shape. And it should be fine. Okay, so now this will. Okay, let's just. Let's see. Yeah, okay, whatever. It's slightly wrong, but it's fine. It'll do what we need to do. And making this is actually let's get rid of all of this. Static by 3D. Let's add child node. box mesh, or mesh instance, like this box, size 20 by 1. Same thing with the collision shape, box mesh, 20 by 1. Alright, so that should match, and then we can have this mesh instance colored brown as we had earlier. No, let's make it a green. Maybe it's a grassy sort of outdoor. There we go. That's fine. A little bright, but it's fine. And then we just want to take this whole thing and move it down to. Move it down to y equals 0. Oh, so you want this to be y equals -1. Why is that that way? Oh, that's the ADB. This transform the position to be -1. It's 1 meter tall. Side by 3, you guys are both inheriting from that. Okay, side by 3, I've got that selected. -1. Why are you not? Did I mess with the transform on this? Transform. What? Hmm. 20, 20. Okay, that just works. Cool. Let's make that a fun. And maybe not green. Let's make it pink. Okay. Now we can take this whole thing, line it up with y0. And so what you can do now is, let's say you wanted to have a level with a hill on it, you could just put more. So the logic doesn't currently work for non-flat objects, like it'll just go straight forward. And then with gravity, so it doesn't quite work. But if you wanted to extend this and make it have a hill over here, or interesting geometry, you could. And now, let's see. Yep. Okay, so mesh instance box trim mesh. Trim mesh did that. Okay, mesh instance, it needs to be a box mesh. Trim mesh. Okay, and then we just take this mesh and we make it like 5 inches tall. There we go. And because this, well, this is going to be different because I made my plane bigger, but same principle. Okay, so yeah, the same the same basic principle. Okay, same here. It's so node 3. Okay. Let's just make that a child. So that means I can control C. Okay. Control D. Cancel. Control D. And then we can just drag this. So 7 to go to top view. And now we can move the various copies sort of around. And you can see that they're sort of casting shadows here. Here. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so we got 4 pillars, that's fine. And then we can make this whole node 3 group invisible, or hidden or not hidden, or sort of expanded or not expanded by pressing that. And now these pillars look a little... Is the collision shape wrong for all of these? Right, let me see. Collision shape. Whatever. If it's wrong, I'll fix it later. But yeah, and then we can also take this whole node 3 and then move it. So, and because our game doesn't have 3D, even if the collision shape is wrong, it'll be right at the ground level, and so it'll have the intended effect, I believe. Although it might not work for visibility calculations, whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And then Control S to save. And yep, it's very simple. Just add environment to scene, add some to scene. Not going to worry much more than that. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with that. Character by 3D, so new scene, 3D scene. Layer. This is okay. No, deleting that scene. 3D scene. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so there we go. And then we're going to rename that player. And then, okay, this is not how I'm used to doing it. Slightly different. Okay, node, groups, player. Okay. Save that, Control S. Okay. Control A. Control A, collision shape. Yep. Yeah. And then we saw this inspector, collision shape, it's called capsule. There we go. Now control this up one. Yep, there we go. So it's now at, so its base is now y equals 0. Yep. Should request. And that's going to be up to 1.5 for that. Yeah, okay. Yep. And it's got to be rotated. Rotated 90 here. Target position to 1,000. Yeah. Okay, they've done this a different way. I don't know if I'm right or not. We'll find out if this works or not. The way I've done it. There we go. That should be equivalent. Okay. This is something that's unfamiliar to me, so I have to make sure it's right. Okay, that. Collision shape 3D camera. Okay, camera 3. Actually, we can just I don't know, camera 3. We can just make that a child of a recast. Wait, why is that not? Okay, so recast is child. Okay, recast child player. Camera 3D a child of recast. Camera 3D's transform. Let's just reset that. There we go. So now those will just be the same. Saving that. Canvas layer. Canvas layer. Awesome. Control. Okay. Where's anchoring? Anchoring. Center bottom. There we go. Okay. Control. Animated for 2D. That's animated for 3D. One animates for 2D. Wait. There we go. Already did that. Gunspace 3D. Split frames. How does that work? Okay. Okay. Like that. Good thing. Good thingy. Open. One. There we go. And then let me just make sure that's visualized correctly in my. What the heck? Enemies. Mode, enemies for 3D. Enemies for 2D. There we go. Great. Animation of D. Source. Oh heck. That's. Oh gosh. Control C? No? Okay, well. Spread second. Let's go back in there. There we go. So, spread PNG, open 4x1. Okay, select that, put 1 frames, that's for idle. Name that idle. And that worked. Now that looks correct. Just over here, right? Oh, and this is not mentioned. That blue thing is the visible space. So if it's outside of that, you can't see it. So in this case, I want to be. Oh, sorry, it doesn't run there. That's not right. Okay. And we're adding animation. Name that. Shoot. Same concept here. Rinse parts. Open 4x1. Scroll out with the control. 2, 3. That order. There we go. And let's put it. And then we can. I think that the tutorial. This is one shot. Turn off. Tune looping off. I think the tutorial makes it place faster. Okay, yeah, so we're adding the more. Shoot. 4x1. There we go. Ten. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Okay. And okay, I'm going to do this differently as well. Okay, so it's in the color. Okay, it's a direct travel of the canvas layer. Let's paint 3D. Okay. New canvas. Let's make what, like 20 by 20. 20. Cool. Brushes. Okay. Shapes. Shapes line. Let's just yeah, this looks ugly as hell, but we'll fix it. Yeah. And okay, that's off center as well. Right, we'll fix it. I'm sure I center. Right now, I want the canvas to be 21 by 21. So it has the center. There we go. And then let's just erase this whole thing and start over. And so that was one pixel. Okay, now let's erase the center. So 3 pixels. Roughly 2 pixels. Yep. That's slightly off, but it's fine. And then menu, save as, image. So how do I do transparency again? Menu, save as, image, cluster. Documents. Oh, come on, work. There, look at file, save as image. Okay. D. documents. There we go. Got so much stuff in here. Let's see if that works. And assets. There we go. Are you transparent? You're not. Okay. Okay, do I have to erase any way to do transparency? I know there is, I just forget how. Next. Okay. Okay, let's just go to physicals. It's fine, right? Let's just emphasize 3. Okay, and then ICER. Oh, that's just the grid, okay. And then pen, boop, 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 boop. Wait, okay, the size. How about 9 by 9? That sounds. Erase that. Boop. There we go. Download. Let's save as. What's here? Okay, cool. Download that as. Yep, there we go. Open that. Bring that into Godot. Put that in. Actually, the size is wrong, but we can fix that. Oh, project settings, terrain, textures, here, here's there. Okay, how's this done? Okay, so that's it. It's a child of the Chems layer. Why does that work? It's for 2D. Okay, great. That's textures. That. And then it's for 2D. Where's the end menu? Convert to. Uh, Okay, so for some reason this doesn't get a. Okay, so we need a. And then that control I can anchor to center. And then all I have to do is press shift to resize this to a size so you can actually see that. I guess Alt Shift. That's a little big. Okay, that looks about right. Okay. Oh wait, actually I can just add this to the show node. Yeah, so we can just add a panel. Panel. Wait, is this not in the center? Control. Transform. Scale. Okay, so the scale is different, but the panel. I don't know why those. So that's the very center. So the panel is actually not in there. Wait, control. So that needs to be here. Control. That's enough. Okay. Yep. There we go. Panel. Child node label. Text. You died. Okay, that does not look good. Whatever. Not worry about it. Enter center. Split text. Size 200. Cool. No, just size that down. Okay, size. Okay, that works. It's ugly, but it works. So we are moving that up. Yep. Yeah. Okay, and then It's inherited from the panel. Right. Start that button. Okay. Text. Start. Cool. Text behavior. Let's ensure that's in there. Huh. Okay, there's no options for this. Interesting. But let's get rid of the text here. People. Sorry. Start. Font size 40. Color. Oh, I can color this, can't I? Let's see the nice red. Here we go. Oh yeah, and we want to image where you want to start, and then if we died, then we'll just turn this cursor off. And then respond button. Actually, let's keep this consistent. I'll restart. And then crosshair, you just disable the crosshair for a bit. Where does this? Where does that block come from? Huh. Control. Does that happen in the game? Okay, I don't know how to fix that. Texture. Let's just make that 0. Okay, cool. Don't worry about it. Awesome. Oh wait, that's not that work. Oh, that's the whole thing. Oop. Okay, we're just gonna accept that block. I don't know how to fix it. Okay. Oh wait, no, it's in product control. Okay, so oh, it's the panel itself. Okay, it's the panel. Usability. Material. I don't know how to fix that. Why is this here? Can we just make it really small? There we go. Sure. Yeah. I don't actually care if those are. Oh no, these are no longer. Okay, I don't care if they're centered. It's fine. It's fine. They're slightly off center. And literally just move the panel. No, it's fine. It's just gonna be off center. Yeah, there we go. And then, yep, add the audio stream player. So good. Nope. Stream player. Doom. And it does. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yep. So script. Great. Yep. Cool. My text is a little bit bigger than theirs, so I'm just gonna. Ah, you're not gonna do graphic drips either, just because that's what the tutorial says. Photography, yep, we don't need that. Okay, so now it fits her conveniently, and then we can just well, just do everything else. Yep, input map, project settings, input map. Right, back, left, right, exit, step, forward, W, yep, left, right, exit, escape, restart. Enter, I guess. Cool. So we have left, right, forward, back. Oh, enter, yeah. That's true. Okay, which one was it? Mouse buttons. Mouse buttons. General, okay, just layers. Collision layer 2. That's layer 1, right? Oh, yeah, speed. Yeah, jump velocity. Okay, we're not jumping, so we don't need jump velocity. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So 9:43 in the video. I think I'm gonna end stream here and finish this up next time. Um, Thanks for watching. I hope you all learned something. I know I did. File, save all scenes, and stop stream.